What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 30 of the Bronx and Big Blue Breakdown. I'm your host, Brady Heslin, and today I'll be breaking down the past week of Yankees spring training games, along with the Giants' pending free agents. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We'll start with the Yankees because they are currently in season, and I have a few talking points that I want to hit with the Yankees. The first of which being the big competition for the final two bench spots on the roster, along with the bullpen competition and some news from Giancarlo Stanton. So let's start by breaking down the games. The Yankees are 8-2, which is the second best record in the MLB so far in spring training. The first guy I want to talk about specifically is Spencer Jones because he has been on fire. He's leading the team with 3 home runs, two of them coming in the past week, and they all feel like they're just moonshots. He's hitting the ball really hard. Um, of course, with him, it's always the strikeouts. It's always the strikeouts. He struck out like almost 40% of the time, I believe, last year in the minors. I don't expect him to really be in play for the opening day roster. I think they would go with Dominguez over Spencer Jones. Um, he's just kind of in a tough spot. He's pretty much blocked. You got Grisham, Bellinger, Judge, Dominguez, and then probably Spencer Jones is like your fifth outfielder. So I mean, all it takes though is a couple injuries. I'd expect him to be a September call up probably when we get to that point. But I think either he's got to be, probably starting the outfield next year, or you got to trade him. Unfortunately, I just, we'll see what Grisham does. But if Grisham has a really good year and it's tough not to re-sign him, probably have to move on from Spencer Jones. But even, you could always go Dominguez, Bellinger, Judge, and then it's like where Spencer Jones kind of fall in that. So, yeah, it'll be a very interesting year for the development of Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, see what Trent Grisham's future looks like, even Giancarlo Stanton, to see what the Yankees do next season with the outfield position. Wells, Dominguez, Jazz, Escara, Ahmed Rosario all homered in the past week. Rosario's is on the first pitch of the game. Dominguez had a moonshot. Wells had a nice homer. Escara as well. So, yeah, overall the offense has looked really good so far to start spring training. Giancarlo Stanton had a missile single today in his spring training debut. Max Fried also looked good in his debut in the spring. From what I saw, unfortunately, the game was not televised against Panama, but yeah, just exciting stuff coming there. Just being able to break down some Yankees games and some good wins too. They've blown out a lot of teams. 13 guys did leave for the World Baseball Classic. I went through those in the past episode, but I can do it again. All of the Yankees that are playing in the World Baseball Classic. I'm just going to pull up the post that the Yankees made today. I know, obviously, Judge, Goldschmidt, those are two for Team USA. You also have Brian Yarbrough, who was just added. So you've got Judge for USA, Jazz for Great Britain, Fernando Cruz for Puerto Rico, Camilo Doval for the Dominican Republic, Jose Caballero for Panama, Paul Goldschmidt, USA, Austin Wells, Dominican Republic, David Bednar, USA, Elmer Rodriguez, Puerto Rico, Ahmed Rosario, Dominican Republic, Harrison Cohen is Israel, Brendan Beck is Great Britain, and Ryan Yarbrough for the USA. So 13 guys, that's a lot of guys that are leaving camp, and that just means more opportunities for the guys in camp, and we'll have to see if they can make the most of those opportunities. But the two main things I want to talk about is just the big competition for the final spots on the roster. So opening day lineup, obviously this is not in order, but you'll have Wells catching, Rice first base, Jazz second, Caballero short, McMahon third, Bellinger left, Grisham center, Judge right, Stanton DH. And then Rosario and Goldschmidt are locks for the bench, in my opinion. So that leaves two bench spots, and there's a bunch of names that are fighting for those final bench spots. You've got Jason Dominguez, Oswaldo Cabrera, JC Escara, Max Schumann, Zach Short, Paul DeYoung, and the newly signed Randall Grichuk. So that's 7 guys fighting for 2 roster spots. If I had to guess right now, I think it probably goes to JC Escara and Randall Grichuk. I think Caballero or excuse me, not Caballero, Cabrera will probably start on the IL in the year, and then they'll put Dominguez in AAA. Zach Short, I'm sure, can go to AAA. Schumann, I believe, has an option. Paul DeYoung is the wild card. I wonder if he has an opt out. I'm actually not sure on that. I know he signed a minor league deal, and I'm assuming he does. I'm gonna look it up quick. But yeah, it's a real competition this spring for those last two spots, and a lot of it does depend on if the Yankees are comfortable with Ben Rice being the backup catcher. Because if they are, then I don't. Escara has no spot on the roster. I mean, I didn't start this podcast yet at the time last year. But I remember for like a month straight, I was like, JC Escara is just a wasted roster spot because he wasn't playing. They were doing Wells and Rice, but they kept Escara on the roster for like a month until they finally um, got him off the team. I forget who they called up, but I believe there was like a need somewhere, and they were just keeping Escara on the bench for no reason. DeYoung will earn $1 million if he makes the roster, um, but it doesn't say if there's an opt out. I'd assume he does have an opt out. Typically, how it goes um, for those guys, but yeah. So again, you've got those seven guys fighting for two roster spots. That's just an interesting thing to look out for this spring, and then obviously you have Volpe coming back at some point during the year, so that's gonna take up another roster spot. So these guys really got to perform in the spring if they want to make the team. And then obviously with Caballero going to the World Baseball Classic, that opens up more opportunities at shortstop for those guys. Judge going opens up a spot in the outfield. So just a lot of opportunities for these guys to make a name for themselves and make the opening day roster for the Yankees. And then for the pitching, um, one guy I really wanted to highlight is Will Warren. He's looked really solid this spring. Um, Good numbers as well. He's got like 6 innings pitched, so he's looked solid. And he's just a guy that I feel like he's been forgotten about by a lot of Yankees fans, including myself. When I think of the rotation, Will Warren doesn't really come to mind, but I think his year last year felt worse than it actually was because he had some starts where he just got like blown up in the first and second inning. So that really hurt his ERA. But he also had a lot of starts where he'd go 5, 6, 7 innings scoreless or one run or whatever. He has a lot of potential. But when you look at the rotation, you've got Fried, Schlittler, Heel, Weathers, and Warren. That's going to be the starting five to begin the year because you have Cole, Rodon, and Schmidt all in the IL. But when Cole and Rodon come back, to me, he looks like the odd man out. Because Cole, Rodon, Fried, Schlittler, Heel, Weathers. I'd assume they could go like a six-man, when those guys come back just to get them a few extra days and keep, an extra starter on the roster. It is unlikely for all those guys to remain healthy. Schlittler's already had an issue this spring. Weathers is fairly injury prone. Heel's been injury prone. So, we'll see. Also, don't want to rely on those guys in their 30s coming off pretty major injuries, and we don't really know what to expect from them. But just feels like Will Warren's kind of like the odd man out in this rotation. And in past years, he would have been a shoo-in in the rotation and a guy that I would have been really excited for heading into the season. In past years, I mean, last year we had to get starts from Carlos Carrasco. Years before that, we had like Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez as those young pitchers. I think Will Warren is better than those guys and offers you more. So we'll see with him. I'm rooting for him. I think he's become underrated with the Yankees fan base, and hopefully he gets some opportunities and can seize those opportunities. Another guy I want to highlight is Ben Hess. He's looked solid so far in the spring. And the last main talking point that I have for the Yankees is I want to talk about the bullpen again. I've been super critical of the bullpen throughout this entire offseason. I said at the beginning of the offseason, I felt like the bullpen was the biggest need on the roster. And then losing Devin Williams, losing Luke Weaver, and not doing a lot to replace those guys, I still feel that way. The counter argument to that is the bullpen's the easiest spot to improve upon mid-year. There's always relievers available at the deadline. But I wanted more talk about the opening day bullpen and the competition that we have there as well. So Bednar, Cruz, Hill, and Doval, those guys are locked in. Yarbrough and Yarbrough, I think you could probably say is also locked in. Blackburn, I think he's like 97% probably going to be on the opening day roster. So that leaves you with two bullpen spots, um, maybe three, depending on if you want to go with 4 or 5 position play, whatever. But you've got a lot of guys. You got Jake Bird, Cade Winquist, Rafael Montero, Brent Hedrick, Angel Chavili, and Dylan Coleman, all fighting for those last couple of spots. So that's another thing to look out for. I know Jake Bird's looked pretty solid, Brent Hedrick as well, but just another thing to look out for. Winquest is also a Rule 5 pick, so if they don't put him on the 40 or on the opening day roster, he will be going back to his original team. So that could give him a little bit of an advantage. Maybe they want to keep him on the roster, send down like Chavili, Hedrick, guys with options just to play some kind of roster gymnastics and give Winquest an opportunity. I think Jake Bird will be on the team. I don't. It's not a lock, obviously, but I think that's what they're leaning. I'd also like to see Rafael Montero get an opportunity. He has been like a legit major league reliever who's thrown well in the past, especially for Houston. I like to see him get a chance. I don't think Chavili's a guy that would hurt to go to AAA, even Dylan Coleman as well. So just a lot of competition between the bench and the bullpen. It'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. So I'm going to keep an eye on a lot of these guys throughout the spring, and they'll be who I'm watching most, along with Spencer Jones, George Lombard Jr., LeGrand, Elmer Rodriguez. He's going to the WBC, so I'll be watching him there, which I'm pumped for. By the way, I'm so excited for a baseball classic. It was so much fun last 3 years ago, and the USA is a better roster this year. The only complaint I have is the merchandise is so expensive. I know you might have seen it on social media, but like an Aaron Judge jersey is like $400. Like that is ridiculous. I was looking at like hats and stuff. It's crazy. So yeah, but that's starting up here really soon. USA obviously they played Panama today, and then the USA played they have like I forgot who they're playing, but I know they're playing an exhibition game today, and Judge had 2 hits. So that's about all I got for the Yankees. Now moving on to actually, um, there's no This Week in History. Just looking forward. Again, just keep an eye on the spring training games. I've kind of already spoken on that. So just want to hit that. Now we can move on to the Giants. And this episode is going to be focusing on the pending free agents. I probably should save this for the looking forward, but I'm actually planning on doing a bonus episode this week only on the Giants where I look at their like more of a free agency preview from outside free agents. I just haven't had a ton of time to do a ton of research on guys that are available. I have a bunch of names down, but I haven't really gotten to look into them. I'm also considering doing a my off season, like a dream off season. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do that. I'd love to do that between with cuts, creating salary cap space. I believe there's a website where I can do it. So I might look into that. We'll see. Don't hold me against it. I might not have the time. But if I do, that would be a really fun thing, I think. Now let's talk about some pending free agents. So I'm going to go in order of guys that I think. Obviously, the most important guys at the top. Then I'll talk about some other guys at the end. But first thing I'm going to talk about is Wan'Dale Robinson. And my opinion on Wan'Dale might be, you might not love it. Maybe you will. I don't know. I don't think it'll be super well liked. I feel like I might be kind of in the minority here among Giants fans. I think it would be best to let Wan'Dale Robinson walk. And here's my reason. I don't think he really fits what John Harbaugh is looking to do with this team, with establishing the run and getting some. I think he wants to look maybe for some bigger receivers. And I just don't think the Giants are really in a spot right now to pay a slot receiver 17, 18, even $20 million. I just don't think the Giants are there. And think about it like this as well. If the Giants re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson, Do you still see wide receiver as a need or a position that the Giants could take in the first and second round? I still view it like that. I think it's still a need. So I think it's just best to just let Wandale walk. I think he's going to get paid somewhere else. I think the Titans are going to throw 20 plus. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets over 22 million, honestly. He's young, 1,000 yard season. Um, I just he fits obviously he fits what Brian Dale wants to do in Tennessee. They have a ton of cap space. I think he's going to go there. I would. It's so tough. I mean, if it's like 15 mil a year, I would do it. I would do it. When you get up past that, that's where you're kind of pushing it for me. And I want to preface this and say this is not like Wanda Robinson's a great player. He's a really unique player. You don't see a lot of slot only guys at 5'7" who can put up 1,000 yards and also be somewhat of a threat on the outside. But I would just rather take that 17 million, and the Giants don't have a lot of cap space. I would rather take that 17 million or 20 or whatever and go pay um, an offensive lineman, go pay a linebacker, defensive tackle. You know, I just think that money can be better spent, and that like I'd rather get three veterans for 5 mil a year, um, or six, whatever, than just get Wandale Robinson. It sucked. It really does. If this was a different year, like if he was a free agent last year, I would have much rather had him than Slayton. Like it's just the timing of it really sucks, and he's been a really fun player to watch. Again, there's not a lot of players around the NFL like Wandale Robinson, so it's gonna suck seeing him go. I'm not expecting him back unless his market really is not what I think it's going to be. But I think there's going to be teams looking for Wandale Robinson, and I just don't think the Giants are going to be that team. Now, if the Giants do come out and they give Wandale Robinson a 3 year, $60 million deal, I'm not going to be like pissed about it, but I'm just going to be a bit worried that other holes on this team aren't going to be filled. Again, they're the problem is, you got Neighbors and you got Slayton, and you don't have much, outside of that. So I think it's a tough, it's really a tough situation. This is why I'm just a guy doing a podcast and not in the actual NFL front office, because there's not really a good solution. Because you let Wandale go, and then you're looking at you got Romeo Doubs, Juwan Jennings, those guys. And it's like, but I think if you draft a guy, even a fourth or fifth rounder, and you roll into the year with Neighbors, Slayton, and that guy, and then you bring in like a veteran or two, I think you can get by. Um, and then you cut Slayton in next offseason, then you really go in at the wide receiver position. We have 129 million in cap space. That's my thought process behind it. Again, I think Wandale's a great player. I just don't think the 20 million going to Wandale is the best use of that 20 million, if that makes sense. The next guy is a guy that I absolutely think the Giants should pay, and that is Jermaine Illuminor. A tackle duo of Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor does not grow on trees, and I want to do whatever it takes to protect Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart would be better with Jermaine Illuminor than Wandale Robinson, if that makes any sense at all. I'm trying to make sense with this, but I think if you can protect Jackson Dart, he can make those receivers look better than Jackson Dart's got no time to throw, and he has like a Wandale Robinson or whatever. Right tackles like Jermaine Illuminor, they don't grow on trees. And if you don't bring back Jermaine Illuminor, there's not a very clear replacement for him. You can't really replace him. There's no one, in my opinion, there's no tackle that you can get outside of your number 5 pick that can come in and be better than Jermaine Illuminor. And you can you can sign Jermaine Illuminor and still draft a tackle in the second or fourth round or whatever, or maybe you trade back and give a third rounder. I want to bring him back. I'd be willing to go up to like past 20 million for sure, to bring back Jermaine Illuminor on like a short, like I wouldn't give him 4 years, 85 million, but I'd be willing to do 2 for 44. Like I would do that for Illuminor. Hold on a second. Sorry about that, but yeah, I would do even 2 for 44, and I think that's pretty high for Luminor. I'm not sure what his market's going to be. From what I've seen, they're projecting probably high teens. I do that in a heartbeat. I do that in a heartbeat. Tackles do not grow on trees. It's such a hard position to find. We've seen that with the Giants. They rolled out Eric Flowers, Evan Neal, Cam Fleming, James Hudson. I mean, these guys, they do not grow on trees. Um, Josh Azudu, like I mean, I could keep going. You need to bring back Jermaine Illuminor because if you don't, there's not a clear option to replace him. He's an above average pass blocker. He's fine in the run game. He did have some frustrating penalties to end the year, but again, I'm willing to pay this guy. He wants to be here. We've seen that the past 2 years. He's involved in the community. He's on social media, that kind of thing. One of the only players that really takes accountability. When they mess up or when the team loses, whatever. I want Jermaine Illuminor back. I will pound the table for Jermaine Illuminor. If we're pushing 24 on a short-term deal, then I'm kind of like, but I don't see that happening. I don't think Illuminor is going to get that kind of money. So I want Jermaine Illuminor back. Like if I do my dream off season, bringing Illuminor back is probably number one on my list. I think he's essential um, for Jackson Dart's development and for wins on this team. The next guy is a real complicated one again, and that's Cor'Dale Flaw. I really don't know what his market is, and I don't know what the Giants think of Cor'Dale Flaw. My guess is he doesn't really fit into what they're trying to do on defense. He's a 170-pound corner. He's really good in man, not the best in zone. Um, I just don't know what his market's going to be. Like, I wouldn't really be comfortable, and I don't think that the Giants would be comfortable paying him 16, 17, 18 million. But I would be perfectly fine if he gets like a 3 or $36 million deal, around 12 mil a year. Um, the thing with him, this was his first year of above average production, and he's had some injuries in the past, but he's only 24 years old. Like, there's going to be rookies next year that are older than Cor'Dale Flat or about the same age, and he's already hitting free agency. Again, if it was a different year, I think I would be, pounding the table more for Cor'Dale Flat, but he's kind of one where I'm like, you know, I feel like I've said this in the past. I don't love doing it. Like I try and give my analysis of different things, but if the Giants really want to bring Cordell Flott back and they are willing to pay him the 15, 16 million, okay. Like I understand 24 years old, above average. Hopefully he can keep ascending. Or if they're like, we want to be able to stop the run. We don't think he can really do that. 170 pounds doesn't fit what we're trying to do. Whatever. We're going to move on. Again, I'd be totally fine with that. Use that money that you were going to give to Flott and just, reimburse it in a better way. So Cordell's a tough one. It just sucks because these are honestly like three of the guys I've enjoyed watching the most this season, and there's a chance that all three of them are gone. So it stinks. I'll always have respect for Cordell Flott for just destroying Deontay Banks in the cornerback battle. I'm so glad that happened because, as you guys all know, I'm not a big Deontay Banks fan, although I do think he has value on special teams. But as a corner, horrific. So that's really a big three. Just to recap, Wandale, I think he should walk. If he's around 15, 16 million, I'm okay entertaining it. Above that, I think I'm out. Drano Luminor, bring him back under almost any circumstance. I'm willing to go up to around like 22 million for him on a short-term deal. And then Cordell Flott, I really don't know. I trust John Harbaugh and his process. If it's like 12 million, I'm good with that. 13, 14, I think I'm around that range. I'd be okay. Above that's where it gets a little questionable for me. But that's where I'm at with those three. Now moving on to some kind of like mid-tier free agents for the Giants. First guy is Dane Belton. I think he's kind of an underrated player for the Giants. He's been a crucial special teamer the past couple seasons. He's got great ball production. He has 6 interceptions in the last 4 seasons, despite being a backup. It just feels like whenever he's on the field, he's in the right place at the right time, makes a great play, and gets an interception. I don't really know what his market's going to be. If he's willing to come back as the fourth safety, I'd be really open to that. Third safety is where you're kind of pushing it, in my opinion. I think they can improve there, especially the safeties are going to have a lot on their plate in this Denard Wilson defense. So I'd be more comfortable with them, you know, even doing Javon Holland, Tyler Newman, and going and maybe getting a Geno Stone or drafting Caleb Downs or whatever. I'd feel a lot better with that than rolling with Holland, Newman, and then Belton as your three, and then you got your Bo Braids of the world as your four. I don't love that. So if he wants to come back, cheap deal, special teamer, fourth guy that can come in and get you an interception, I'm open to that. If he wants to go somewhere else and try and compete for a starting spot, or maybe go be the third safety somewhere, I understand that as well. Micah McFadden, this is another guy I really want the Giants to bring back. I think he's going to be cheap. I'd do a 1 year, 2 year deal. I think that makes the most sense for both sides. If you're McFadden, you want to have a bounce back year. You basically missed the entire season. And then if you're the Giants, you don't really know what you're getting from him. You'd like to see him continue improving. So I think a 1 or 2 year deal makes the most sense. I would love if the Giants did like a 1 year, $3 to even $4 million deal for McFadden, or like a 2 for $8, something like that. I think that's great value. And they're extremely thin right now at linebacker. It's unclear if Bobby Okereke will be on the team next year, if he'll be a cap casualty. And then don't have much outside of him, Muasau and a couple others. So really thin at linebacker. Would be nice to get him. Even if he's the first backup, I think that would be great. Or the kind of like a bridge starter. I think that'd be the best role for McFadden. Greg Van Roten's another one. I really would like Van Roten to be back as well. He signed, he signed back-to-back 1 year deals ranging between like $2 to $3.5 million. If they give him a deal in that range, even a 1 year $5 million deal, I would be comfortable with Van Roten. He's about an average pass blocker. He's going into his age 36. I think he turns 37 mid-year next year, so he's getting older, but I think he'd be a great guy to start early on in the year. And then if they draft a guard, even in a day 3 pick, maybe you can kind of slide him in, ease his way onto the team, even a second rounder. Just I think he's a perfect guy for that role. Um, we'll see if he wants to go be a starter. I don't know if there's a team out there that would necessarily guarantee him a starting spot, but if there is, I think he'd go there for cheap. Um, we'll see if he wants to stay with the Giants, though. Maybe take a little bit of a discount to end his career in New York. Rakeem Nunez-Roches, I don't really see him back. I don't think he really fits what they're trying to do with stopping the run. He has been great at that. But I think he certainly has a spot in the league as a backup defensive tackle. He's got a great motor. That's all I really got to say. Daniel Bellinger, I wouldn't mind seeing Bellinger back. Probably more as the tight end 3, though, than the tight end 2. I think they could definitely improve tight end 2, even tight end 1. Maybe they bring in a star tight end, David Njoku, Isaiah Likely. That bumps Theo Johnson down to 2. Bellinger down to the 3. But again, I think there's a team out there that would be comfortable having Daniel Bellinger as their tight end 2. And I think Bellinger would take a discount to go there and just kind of start fresh. On one hand, like one part of me thinks, oh, he should have gotten more playing time. I feel like he did. He caught pretty much everything that was thrown at him. Him and Dart seemed like they had a pretty good connection. But on my other hand, I was like, this Giants team's been terrible the past few years, and he really has not gotten a lot of targets or receptions or whatever. And like, there hasn't been a lot of times I'm like, oh, Daniel Bellinger's on. Like, I don't know, he just doesn't really pop in my mind. So I don't think he's going to get a ton of money. Like, I'd be fine 1 year, 2 million, 1 year, 3 million, 2 years, 5 million, like whatever. I'm fine with a lot of deals like that. But I think he probably goes elsewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. Other names, Russell Wilson, he's obviously gone. I wouldn't even want him as my backup, honestly. I think he should just retire. I mean, we'll see. There's rumors about like Tanner McKee and Andy Dalton, like guys like that potentially getting looks to be a starter. Tyson Bagent. So who knows? Maybe there's a team out there that thinks he's got something left and he's their star. I don't see it. He looked so bad this year. Austin Schlottman, I wouldn't mind coming back. He's seemed decent in his time. as the backup center. Josh Azudu, he's gone, I think. Evan Neal, it'll be interesting to follow the rest of his career. Um, I'm sure he's gonna, just because of the name, he's gonna get an opportunity in him being a first round pick. But it looks like Chris Manhertz is the last one on my list. I think he's probably gone as well. I think the Giants go a different direction at tight end, and that's all I really got. So yeah, that's pretty much a breakdown of the Giants pending free agents. Moving on now to this week in history, March 2nd, 2016. So 10 years ago, yesterday, if you're watching this today, it is posted. The Giants signed Olivier Vernon in a major defensive overhaul. I actually believe this was a trade. I don't know why it says they signed him. Maybe I can't exactly remember. I was um 7 years old, but I do actually remember this. I do remember my dad telling me about the Giants got Olivier Vernon. Um, he was a part of a massive defensive spending spree that also included Norris Jenkins and Damon Harrison. Damon Harrison was honestly one of my favorite players from that time period of the Giants. I loved Snacks Harrison, that nickname. He got an interception against the Chiefs. I still remember that. And then Janoris Jenkins, Jackrabbit. He was fun to watch for a couple years as well, as the Giants CB1. It was one of their biggest free agent splashes in franchise history, so I guess I'm wrong. And it helped them spark their 2016 playoff return. Fun fact, think I think it was the first Giants game I ever went to. Olivier Vernon had like back-to-back offsides penalties, and this guy in front of us was just heckling him so bad. It was so funny. That's my main memory of Olivier Vernon with the Giants. So looking forward, I'm not sure what day yet, but I am planning to do a free agency preview um, for the Giants. I'm going to go through every position. If I have time, I would love to do a dream offseason. We'll see if I'm able to do that. I think the earliest I could probably do it is probably uploaded Friday, I would guess, is probably going to be the best option there. Because the legal tampering period for free agency is March 9th, which is Monday at noon. So next, like, normal episode, there will likely be new players on the Giants and Giants players that are elsewhere because NFL free agency moves so much faster than MLB's free agency. We won't be waiting for months like we were for Cody Bellinger. So that's going to conclude this episode. Back up to that half-hour mark, which is where I like to be with these episodes. That's good. If you like this, please like, subscribe, follow all my social medias. And until next time, let's go Yankees and let's go Giants.